What if you're somebody that struggles with listening? I got my assistant criticized me the other day and said, "Hey, on these calls, people can tell when you're on your phone, and
Wow.
then
Okay,
so
so
essentially they know you're not listening."
uh-huh,
And hey,
uh-huh.
especially when you say, "Hey, what was that? Huh? Could you repeat that?" That's really clear indicator you're not listening.
So, there's a thing about being present and mindfulness, right? So, if you're someone who struggles with listening, I think you have to identify what's getting in the way. You're trying to multitask, and it's impossible to multitask. It's not a thing.
I have
So,
this on full screen now. I'm using full screen Zoom, so I can't look at other windows.
see, but that's it. Put your phone in another room, close out all the other windows.
Well,
I don't,
that's the other thing. My phone's like this now. It's laying flat, so
right?
you can't see it.
Yeah. But we have to do those things because we have so many inputs, so many things coming at us that it's hard to focus. But it takes less time when you focus than when you don't. So you're actually gaining time by just being present in the moment and paying attention than, having to go back through, could you repeat that? I didn't get that, whatever it is. Plus, then there's the whole respect aspect of it. And I think if people think about how they feel when they're not listened to, you know, don't you think, wow, that guy's pretty rude,
Yep.
right? Why am I investing my time? It doesn't do a whole lot for the relationship.
I so my thoughts on listening, there's a component of one, you're going to do a lot better if you can actually understand the other person's goals and what they're trying to do and help them achieve those goals versus pushing your own agenda. I think there's that, and then I think there's one other piece that's not a little bit in a different area is we tend to want to make a really good impression on people, and our head tends to be more of circulating like what's the next thing I can say to make a good impression. And I feel like that's where we sort of get deterred from active listening.
Yeah.
And that's where you got to prevent that and really, really listen. And I feel like that's the thing to develop because I still struggle with that.
Well, right, because we're thinking about the next thing we're going to say instead of really hearing what they're talking about. Maybe if we focus on, okay, I want to really focus on what they're saying so I can respond to what they're saying, then it takes away that trying to think of the next thing to say. Because what you realize is you can't till you hear what the person says,
Right.
so it's just a different,
'Cause when I like right now, I'm looking down periodically, but I'm taking notes. And so
right?
some of these things may be like a quick, like I'll write a word down just to bring it back later. And
Yeah,
so I can get back and say, okay, let me get back in it. So I still have a little bit of that where I just can't control it. And it's part of just submitting it, right? But I can't. So I just write it down real quick. Let me a one word reminder and get back in it. And a lot of times it's just, people value that when you
I
can
think
tell
so.
someone's listening because you can tell, and that's what builds a good relationship.
That's exactly right. Otherwise, you feel like you're being dismissed and what you have to say isn't important, that the person doesn't value you. There's all that psychology that goes on with it. And so then in business, when you have a leader who's doing that, what happens, there's a statistic about what 29% of the workforce is actively engaged and the rest are disengaged. Okay, well, they could be disengaged because they don't feel valued. They don't feel like anyone's listening. They don't feel like anyone's paying attention. And so why would they be engaged? Why would they care? And people want to feel valued. They want to feel like they're contributing, and we want them to because we need them to. So if it would be as simple as saying, you know what, if you actually paid attention and you listened to people, if you sought them out, asked them a question and really listened to what they had to say, first of all, you'd learn something. And second of all, they would feel valued.
I
And what
agree.
does that do for your bottom line? A lot.
I agree. I agree. I mean, just working with some of these companies, the fact just being a person that comes in and asks about their problems and listening to them, it's funny because internally I know in the organization nobody else is doing it.
Right. And isn't that a shame?
Right. I agree. I agree. That's like a part is how do you, and we can go on about that, but I guess we want to keep it more as a personal context versus a business context. But it's a part of leadership, I guess. As a leader, you want to periodically be able to invite it and be proactive about making sure everybody's got a voice that can be heard in your organization.
I mean, think about it. If you don't know why clients leave, if you don't know why employees leave, you have a problem. And part of the problem is you're not listening to them.
Oh,
You're not asking
100%.
questions.
If you have somebody leave that caught you off guard and you didn't expect it, that's a clear indicator you were not listening.
Exactly. Or you weren't creating an environment where you could listen, right?
Right.
If you didn't give them an opportunity to say anything, then they just go.